Hi, I'm Sam, and today I'm going to be talking about how my master's work, a feasibility and assessment of Anishinaabe-centered Mnomen restoration on university properties, is grounded in a responsibility that academics, as beneficiaries of colonial institutions, have to Indigenous peoples within their community. So, contrary to what most of us learned in history class, this land was not empty when the Europeans got here. In fact, there were around 100 million people estimated to be living here, each representing a number of different cultures and languages. The descendants of these people now make up over 563 tribes that fall within the landmass we call the United States. The people indigenous to the land we are currently occupying are the Anishinaabe, a cultural group that includes Chippewa, Ojibwa, Potawatomi, and Odawa people. Once the inhabitants of the East Coast, the Anishinaabe came to the Great Lakes as part of a 500-year journey that was the result of a prophecy. This prophecy foretold a coming danger, and thusly the Anishinaabe headed west to avoid destruction and moved to the place where the food grows on water. That place was the Great Lakes, and that food was Mnomen, or wild rice, which is a native grain which at the time was very widespread throughout the region. The Anishinaabe ancestors lived in the Great Lakes with Mnomen as a staple of their diet for hundreds of years before the danger foretold on the East Coast, European colonization, finally made it to the Midwest. When the European colonization started in Michigan, violent relocations and removals started and ultimately culminated in the cession of lands through treaties in the late 17 and early 1800s. One treaty in particular, signed in 1817, was very important to the founding of the University of Michigan. This was the treaty at the foot of the rapids, which yielded the 4,000 acres of land that provided for the creation of a college in Detroit, which is now University of Michigan. The tribes ceded this territory in order so that their children could be educated at the university. And while the university continues to benefit off of the money that was gained from the sale of those original 4,000 acres, Native youth make up less than 1% of the university's population. So Mnomen is still central to Anishinaabe identity, culture, and health today. It's the reason that they are the people of the Great Lakes. But just as many Anishinaabe people were killed and displaced during colonization, during the time of land cessions and removals, Mnomen was also negatively affected. Changing water levels, pollution from industrialization, and dams and infrastructure developments meant that Mnomen was physically harmed. It was also separated from the people due to all of the assimilationist policies. And so for a long time, the people in Mnomen really struggled to find each other. Luckily today, through the excellent work of a lot of community leaders, Mnomen is finally finding its way home. And as Indigenous leaders across North America work to reconnect to their lands, traditions, and cultural practices, those of us privileged by colonialism have a responsibility to support them. Supporting initiatives like the Mnomen Project that center Indigenous communities and needs is one way that the university can go beyond just professing values of equity and justice and actually act on them. These projects form partnerships with tribal communities that are designed to be mutually beneficial and at the same time build relationships that are not based on exploitation and tokenism, but reciprocity and trust. Those of us working on the Mnomen Initiative hope that these kinds of relationships will allow the Academy to begin giving back to those communities which for so long have been the victim of genocidal, assimilationist policies carried out by educational institutions. Our work strives to lay the foundation for U of M Indigenous engagement that moves away from shallow acknowledgement of wrongdoing and towards an awareness that empowers actions towards justice. Thank you.